Ethan Fromm, and I'm from New England, where I live with my crazy disabled wife, Zenobia Zena Fromm. Her cousin Maddie came to live with us around the house shortly after Zena came ill. But after a year of her living with us, I became infatuated with her. My wife, of course, started to get suspicious, so I tried to block her out. But all I could think about was Maddie. When Zena left to visit some family, I was thrilled because I can finally spend some time alone with Maddie. While at dinner, we accidentally broke Zena's favorite pickle dish. When Zena returned, she informed me her health became much worse and she planned on hiring someone better than Maddie. Overcome with news, I ran to Maddie, but I was interrupted by Zena. She found that the pickle plate was broken and told me that Maddie would have to leave. I decided that Maddie and I would run away, but soon realized our financial situation would not allow that. After my wife shared the plans of Maddie's departure, I tried to obtain more pay for lumber, but ran into Hale Slay. His wife began praising me as she knew I was taking care of my ill wife. Overcome with the guilt, I could not carry out my plan. While taking Maddie to the station, we passed the sleighs we once promised to ride, but we never had. Maddie proposed that we do it, but finishing by running into the foot of the elm tree to share our last moments together. After a bit of coaxing, I finally agreed, but soon after I came back to consciousness, I realized we are both greatly injured. Since Zena has cared for us so much as she could, it's just been fairly hard considering.
Yes, it's been quite hard because Zena's way of caring is punishing us for adultery. Even in the smallest way she can, putting my cane a little out of reach, making the soup cold. She just wants to see us suffer, and I think knowing that she holds our lives in her hands while keeping us so far apart is part of the satisfaction.
Alright, I see. Let's talk more about you, Maddie. Start at the beginning. When did you come to live at the Fromm's house?
When Zenobia became ill, she insisted on having someone help her run the house while Ethan was at work. And in their current financial situation, they couldn't afford to hire someone. So my mother offered my help to her instead.
Do you resent Zena because of this?
Of course, no rational person wouldn't. I mean, I was dragged out of my home to go work for free for a cousin who's never treated me as an equal.
Did that contribute to why it was so easy to betray her?
Falling in love with Ethan wasn't planned, but of course it was easier to handle the guilt knowing that she was the reason I was here to begin with. And then she left and I couldn't help myself. It was just too easy. But then I dropped that plate, that stupid pickle plate that her mom bought her, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Ethan, what made you change your mind that night when you and Maddie were alone?
The guilt mostly, knowing it was wrong. But as soon as she came home the next day and told me what she was planning on doing, I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. I knew I had to tell Maddie.
I knew that we had mutual feelings, but I was afraid that he wouldn't reciprocate because of the guilt. After Zena told me I was leaving, I started to think of ways I could stay with Ethan, and then on our way to the station we passed the sleighs and I just couldn't help myself. The thought of us being together forever while escaping her was exactly what we wanted, and I couldn't walk away from that.
Suicide seems a bit extreme. Did it ever occur to you that it might not work?
Of course, that's why I originally decided against it. But then when I look into Maddie's eyes and saw everything I would be missing if she went away, and I just couldn't let that go.
I think now's a good stopping point. Why don't you two go get something to eat, and then we can have a group therapy section in a half an hour. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm sorry we couldn't meet in my office. They're refurbishing it.
My name is Antonia Kuzak. My maiden name is Antonia Shimurda. I am an immigrant from Bohemia. I moved to Virginia when I was a young child. My papa decided to buy a farm in hopes to be self-sustaining, but we lost most of our money when we got over here because of like currency issues, and we wound up living off of like $1,000. So as you can imagine, that was really difficult for us. Shortly after we got there, I met Jim. Jim has been really helpful to me because he's the person that taught me how to speak English, because when I got over here I didn't know any English at all. Around a year later, my father passed away, which was a really difficult time for us. At first we thought that my dear brother killed him, but it turned out that he committed suicide, which was also something that was really difficult to handle. It was obviously very hard to sustain the household, and but however, Jim's grandparents were really helpful to us. They helped provide necessary items for us and things like that. And then a couple years later, I decided to move to a neighboring town to find some work so I could send money home to my family. I ended up dating a town boy, but shortly after that I found myself in an abusive relationship, which was also a really difficult time for me. And then I found myself unexpectedly pregnant, and after that he left me a couple days before the wedding, which was also very difficult for me. So I went home to my family and I tried to cover up my pregnancy. I put layers of clothing on over top because I knew that my family wouldn't necessarily approve of that, and they didn't at first, but they got better after that. And a few years later, I met a man who was nice enough to appreciate my family, or myself and my child, and we eventually got married, and I actually have 10 kids now.
And how about you, Jim?
My name's Jim Burton. I'm a prosperous New York lawyer. And as Antonia said, I moved to Virginia when my parents passed away, and I was sent to live with my grandparents. And the whole move was very tough for me because I left behind a lot of things that I loved and cared about. And I wasn't sure what I was gonna do after that. But luckily there was a family that moved next door, and I became friends with Antonia, and taught her English since she didn't know any. When Antonia moved to a neighborhood, I lost contact with her. And then I was sent to Harvard for college. And when I came back, I met back up with her, and she had 10 kids, and it was nice to see her.
Well, it's nice to meet you all. I'm glad to hear about your background. Let's talk about your move, Antonia. That was a whole new country. How did you adjust?
It was difficult for me because I was very young, and because it's a whole different, like, new world over here almost. I didn't know any English.
I'm sorry.
And so
whole new world.
Was that recording? Was that recording?
Yeah, I know it was, but then I hit the Siri button and it was like...
I thought it was the camera. Okay, should I just keep going?
Yeah,
That was around the time when Jim came into my life, and he was a huge help to me because he had so much patience and he taught me English. And so yeah, I don't know where I would be without Jim, to be honest.
How did you deal with the suspicions that your brother killed your father?
It was difficult to handle, just thinking that your brother would kill your father. That's just not right. But I was relieved to know that it wasn't my brother. Like, it didn't make me feel any better that it was my own father that committed suicide, but it also kind of made it feel better that it wasn't my brother.
So why do you think your father committed suicide?
That's a difficult question. It's hard to know exactly what happened. I would think maybe it was because of the stress that he had, just because, you know, he was the one that raised the family, he was the one that would provide for the family, and because it was winter time, because it was hard to be successful, I think that put a lot of stress on his shoulders, and maybe that's why.
Did you see much of each other when you moved to town?
We found each other again while we were social dancing.
How did not seeing Jim make you feel?
It was difficult for me because I feel like at the moments when I needed him the most, he wasn't there for me. But the fact that, like, I saw him, but, like, he didn't come up to me, I don't know. I was a little upset about that, but I got over it.
How do you think your family would have responded if they knew you were pregnant in the beginning?
In the beginning, they definitely would have disapproved of it. And I feel like at first when they found out, they disapproved as well. Just because, you know, I wasn't married, and that's unacceptable to have a child / get pregnant when you're not married.
You would probably have been shunned?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
You can turn the camera off.
Yeah. Where's the button?
On the right side.
Hello?
I guess the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
So now that you got to meet see each other again 20 years later, how do you think your relationship is?
You know, it's hard. You never know how it's going to be, you know, like picking up where you left off. Like 20 years is a long time. But I feel like it's almost as if time has stood still. And it's just like the good old days, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have another couple that comes here for therapy that has some very similar issues, so I was thinking we could all talk in a group setting. Okay, I thought couples therapy would be a good idea, so why doesn't everybody introduce themselves?
I'm Antonia.
I'm Jim.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Ethan.
Okay. So we can talk about your relationship. So how has your relationships flourished since you first met?
Well, when I was a little girl, I came over to the States from Bohemia, and I didn't speak any English at all, and it just so happened that Jim, he lived near me, and he and I, we were like similar ages, well, we still are, but like we're similar in age, so we would spend a lot of our time together in the fields and stuff, and he's actually the person that like taught me English, so yeah, but like over the years, there was a point in time when we weren't together. He is really, really intelligent. So like he went to college. He actually went to Harvard. So yeah, he's like really smart. And I was like in an abusive relationship, and like all this stuff happened. But eventually we got back together, and it's kind of as if time just stopped, and it was like the good old days again. So yeah, but
It kind of like went up, and then it went down, and then it went back up.
yeah. But like I don't know where I would be today without his friendship. So
Ours didn't
Yeah.
go back up.
No.
It went up and then
It just went
stayed down.
It's been tough since, well, Maddie got paralyzed waist down, and I've been suffering my injuries as well, but it's,
what happened?
well, I'm in a relationship with my wife, Zena. She's been very ill for a while, and she's been driving me crazy. So Maddie came over and started staying with us and helping us out.
Yeah, Zena's my cousin, so once she got sick, I came down and started helping around the house. But she's crazy.
Yeah.
She hasn't been the nicest person. Our relationship kind of started a bit rocky.
I think you would consider it an affair.
Yeah, and Zena, she started getting,
She started being suspicious quick.
yeah, and I mean, after the accident, she kind of knew.
She knew that she had us. We were her pawns.
So now she takes care of us.
That's hard.
It is.
How do your lifestyles affect your current relationships?
Well, during that time, when he was at school, I fell in love with someone and I got married. So that kind of threw a wrench into our friendship. But like it's just not gonna work to be more than friends because I'm in love with someone and because I have kids and just because distance-wise we're so far away from each other that like we're just gonna stay close friends.
Yeah, definitely the Harvard thing was a big factor in that. And we were so far away, we couldn't see each other and everything.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer, and it was kind of hard because, while I was at college, I couldn't see her, and yeah, it was difficult. And it was hard because I didn't have any support from Antonia, so it was kind of difficult.
What about you, Ethan?
Well, I'm a wealthy farmer who specializes in lumber, but since of my injuries, I have to live off the money that I have now.
I don't really have a job. Like, I used to work for Ethan and Xena as a housekeeper, but since, paralyzed, can't really do much.
I stay home and take care of my crazy 10 children. They keep me plenty busy. Caring for them and stuff. I don't do work, physical work. I just care for the children. But it's one heck of a job, I can tell you that.
How has society affected the end of your relationships?
Well, society wants me to do well school-wise with college and everything, but I think helping other people is more important or whatever. But that's what they want me to do, so that's what I have to do.
Well, I think that we would want to be together, but since we were away from each other for so long, since I already met someone and fell in love with him, I think my job is to be a motherly figure for my 10 children. It's difficult for us, but we always just have that really, really close friendship.
I completely understand what you're talking about. I would love to be with Ethan, but I have to be a cousin to Xena, and that's all I can be, and he can only be a husband, and there's nothing we can really do about it.
And us being paralyzed just makes it even harder.
The feels.
Yeah, at least there's someone out there that understands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The feels.
I wish we can just forget about all this and end up together, but
We can't.
we can't.
The feels.
We have rules in society. We have to fulfill them.
Well, thank you for coming here today. I hope you found couples therapy beneficial so you could talk things through about your relationship and hardships.